So the final option we'll look at is an irrevocable trust. So the way this works is during life, you have assets, and you can direct a certain amount of assets or certain assets to an irrevocable trust. With this option, assets would be moved into the irrevocable trust while both spouses are alive. Depending on the structure of this trust, it could continue to provide income or use of the assets. So income, if you have stock, let's say, the dividends produced off of that, or use of assets. If you have real estate, you could put the real estate into this type of trust and continue to live there. But by giving up ownership of the assets, you do receive some asset protection during life or during the life of both spouses. So that's probably the best benefit here, is you get 2x of creditor protection for both spouses. None of the options provide this, but also none of the options require giving up some control of assets during the life of both spouses. As I mentioned, you can retain income from this trust, or if you have real estate, you could continue to live in the real estate. It also creates a potential stop loss of assets. So if both spouses decide, let's put a certain amount of stock or a certain amount of real estate into this irrevocable trust, as long as you don't go into a nursing home for 60 months after the transfer and require Medicaid, and as long as you are not making that transfer to avoid a creditor that you know of at the time, those assets are always going to be protected. The drawbacks here, it cannot be changed. It is an irrevocable trust. So the terms are in place, and those terms really can't be changed. Now, there are some ways to adjust provisions in the irrevocable trust and some powers you can retain depending on what your asset level is. But generally speaking, you should go in anticipating that, by and large, the terms cannot be changed. There is a timing risk. As I mentioned before with the Medicaid look-back, if you put assets into the irrevocable trust, you want to be certain that there's not a high likelihood of you going into a nursing home and requiring Medicaid within 60 months of that transfer. And up front, there is more administrative work because, as I mentioned, you're probably not going to be the trustee of this irrevocable trust. It may require a family member or a third party acting as trustee, whereas with the revocable trusts, the ones that I discussed before, those all allow you to remain as the trustee. Something worth noting, even if you have an irrevocable trust, you can also have a revocable trust, which means all of the prior planning options I just covered are still available. So you can build or put these options together and build upon them to have different levels of creditor protection.